Okay, I will explain a little bit about the background of the company for both PPB Group Berhad and PJBumi Berhad. PPB Group is investment holding and property investment company that have been founded in 1968. They also been listed in Bursa Malaysia. Their headquarters is based in Kuala Lumpur, but they also operate in foreign countries such as Vietnam, Thailand and Indonesia. They have 6 business segments such as environmental engineering and utilities, property, grains and agribusiness, consumer product, film exhibition and distribution, and other operations. Their mission is to strengthen their leadership position in their core businesses in Malaysia, expand regionally for further growth, and their vision is to be market leader for their core business. PJBumi is an integrated provider of multidisciplinary engineering and building services. They have been founded in 1985 and been listed in Bursa Malaysia in 2004. Their headquarters is based in Shah Alam, Selangor. They also have various segments like PPB Group Berhad, such as environmental, energy and renewable energy, municipal solid waste, building services and utilities, and general construction industry. Their mission is to maintain a proud tradition of being the leading integrated supplier of products and services in the country related to the effective and productive management. And their vision is to be world-class total environmental solution provider.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Zuhair. Now I will be presenting the financial ratios analysis for PPB Group Berhad and PJBumi Berhad. So under liquidity ratios, there are current ratio and quick or acid test ratio. As for activity ratios, there are inventory turnover, average collection period, and total asset turnover. So for the liquidity ratio, both current ratio and quick ratio of PPB Group Berhad are higher than PJBumi Berhad, which are 2.9 and 2.16 respectively, as compared to 0.89 and 0.88. It shows that the overall liquidity of PPB is greater than PJBumi. Besides, PPB has the ability to pay off short-term liabilities with current and quick assets better than PJBumi. Even though PPB should encounter no difficulties in paying short-term liabilities, there is possibility that investors may develop concerns that the company is over-investing in liquidity if the overall liquidity of the firm is higher than the industry norm. As for the activity ratios, or also known as efficiency ratios, PPB have the better activity ratio in terms of the average collection period, but not in total asset turnover. The inventory turnover for the companies are not equally comparable, as the nature of the business for both companies are different from one another. PPB's average collection period is lower than PJBumi, which is 58.62 days as compared to 270.71 days. This indicates that PPB has the better ability to collect cash from accounts receivables than PJBumi. However, PPB has the lower total asset turnover, which is 0.2 as opposed to 0.35 from PJBumi. This shows that PJBumi is slightly better in managing its assets to generate sales. Therefore, PJBumi is more efficient in using its assets than PPB.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Muhammad Afizan bin Mustamin. I will be presenting on debt and profitability ratios. As your information, a debt ratio greater than 1, which is greater than 100%, tells you that a company has more debt than assets. Both companies use more assets than debt to finance the operation of their business. The debt ratio of PJBumi, which is higher, indicates that the company used assets lesser than PPB to finance their operating business. On the other hand, PPB has a higher debt-to-equity ratio than PJBumi, as the company depends more on debt in financing its operating business, in which high debt-to-equity ratio indicates higher risk to shareholders. For profitability ratios, the profitability ratios of PPB are higher than PJBumi in all aspects of the profitability ratios. The net profit margin of PPB is greater than PJBumi. PPB generated more earnings after all expenses and taxes. The return on total asset (ROA) of PPB is higher than PJBumi. This illustrates that PPB has more potential in generating sales and profits. As for the return on equity (ROE), PPB also has higher ROE than PJBumi, it can be seen that the PPB has the ability to earn more return in its equity investment. That's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Hafeez and I will continue with the first intended outcome for MCCG 2017, Principle A, Board Leadership and Effectiveness. 1.0, every company is headed by a board which assumes a responsibility for the company's leadership is collectively responsible for meeting the objectives and goals of the company for both PPB Group Berhad and PJBumi Berhad. As you can see, there are 5 parts under the first intended outcome, and based on the corporate government report for both companies, they apply all the guidelines except for PJBumi for 1.3 guideline on the position of chairman and CEO are held by a different person. This is because the position of chairman and CEO of PJBumi is held by the same person due to the size of the company. The board of PJBumi argue that as long as there are a pertinent check and balance to ensure no one person in the board have unfettered power to make a major decision for the company, it will be okay. The board view that the significant contribution of independent non-executive director, which is made up of 75% of the current board size, is enough to provide for a relevant checks and balance.
Intended outcome 2, we will talk about the demarcation of responsibilities between the board committees and also the management. Practice 2.1 talks about the board charter that clearly identifies the respective roles and responsibility of the board committees, individual directors and also management, and the issue and decisions reserved for the board. For PPB Group Berhad, the practice is in a status of departure because the board charter adopted in 2014 sets out matters reserved for the board's decision and outlines the board's role and responsibilities. The reason for this departure is because the board charter are being reviewed to align with the updated group strategic plan and to include provisions and sustainability, and also an anti-bribery and corruption, or in short they call it ABEC framework. But for PJBumi Berhad, there were no changes for practice 2.1. Intended outcome 3 talks about the board that is committed in promoting good business conduct and maintaining a healthy corporate culture that engenders integrity, transparency and also fairness. Practice 3.1 emphasis on the board established a code of conduct and ethics for the company, and together with management implements its policies and procedures, which includes managing conflicts of interest, preventing the abuse of power and also corruption, insider trading and also money laundering. For PPB Group, the practice is in a status of departure because they are being reviewed as a part of the group ABEC framework, like as mentioned before, which is currently being developed and will be strengthened and expanded if necessary. Thereafter, the table for the board they are tabled for the board for approval. There are no changes for PJBumi's Berhad, and also the practice 3.2 is on establishment reviews and together with management implements policies and procedures on whistleblowing. In this case, there were no departures for both companies. That is all from me. Thank you.
Next, I will proceed with the intended outcome 4.0 and intended outcome 5.0. The intended outcome 4.0 is to come out with the accurate decision for the company. Every decision of the company must go through discussion, meeting and take other opinions. The decision cannot simply made by individual person or single person. By doing so, the board will prioritize the interest of the company instead of personal interest. In overall, PBB Group and PJBumi follow this guideline of MCCG. Except for PJBumi, all the directors are male. However, in the future, they will consider to add woman director in the board position. And for PBB Group, there is one independent director who served for the company more than 9 years. But the continuing of this position has been discussed and accepted by the board in the meeting. Next, we move on to intended outcome 5.0, which is on evaluation and assessment on board of directors. In short, both companies make an evaluation annually to their board of directors based on their performances, roles and responsibilities.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Muazamil bin Sa. I will proceed the presentation with the remuneration part of the MCCG 2017. For intended outcome 6.0, it is required for the company that the remuneration must take into consideration the desire for the company to attract and retain the right talent in the board. It must also align with the long-term objectives of the company. Moreover, the remuneration policies and decisions are also made through independent and transparent process. For practice 6.1, both of the group has departed from this practice. This practice requires that the group must have policies and procedure to determine the remuneration of the senior directors and senior management. The reason behind this departure is that currently there are no formal policy issued by the group on remuneration. Next, for practice 6.2, both of company has applied this practice, which requires them to have their own remuneration committee. For intended outcome 7.0, it is required that the company must allow the stakeholder to assess the remuneration of the directors and senior management to ensure that the remuneration is taken into consideration of the company's performance. In practice 7.1, both of the company has applied the disclosure on a name basis for individual directors. For practice 7.2, both of the company has departed on the disclosure of a name basis for top 5 senior management remuneration. They stated that the reason behind the departure of this application is that it is not in the best interest for the group due to business, confidentiality, and the personal security of the senior management. For practice 7.3, which is the step up, both of the company has departed from this practice. The reason behind it is the same as for the practice 7.2. That's all from me. Thank you.